reason I'm saying that today is 10 years ago, in 2004, a baby was in the hospital with E. coli poisoning. That was 10 years ago. Now we have vast well contamination in our county. And even today, Andy has said that many of the wells that are contaminated already have that 20 feet span that we're hoping to implement today. So we have major contamination already going on in places where we have that 20 feet.
When I go in that barn, this little girl has a pony. What's your pony's name?
Stanley.
And what do you want for Stanley that Grandma worries?
Water.
This is not a futuristic problem. I think it's time that everybody in this room and this committee realizes that we are in a state of emergency. We are beyond a health crisis here going on in our county.
We now have over 80,000 cows in this county. There are DNR permits in the process of being approved that will bring that total to almost 110,000 cows. That will produce over 4.2 million tons of liquid waste per year.
Recent report done by Davina Bones, our own Davina Bones, and Kevin Masaryk of UW Stevens Point on a year-long well testing done in Lincoln Township. Lincoln Township has a serious problem characterized by Mark Borchardt of U.S. Geological Survey, who characterized us as, this is akin to a third world country, end quote.
My well tested positive for polyoma virus and positive for salmonella species. The test showed the well was contaminated with bovine manure, and findings of salmonella in my well were of great concern. 10 wells were tested, and the lab expert told me this were findings they expect to see in a third world country. 10 years ago, the Tremel family suffered and almost lost a child from exposure of their water. Here we are a decade later, and what have we done? I think things have gotten much worse. Not just for myself, but many county residents cannot drink their water, cannot use their water to brush their teeth, cook with, or wash their dishes.
If you do the math and you take a look at it, it's over 48 tons per acre that could be spread, or has to be spread. It's going to be produced. The cows are coming. They're not building those barns for nothing. And I think moving forward and asking for 20 feet is the minimum this committee should consider.
We're very concerned with spray irrigation manure here in Kewaunee County. It's a new practice here, and it has a great potential to harm our citizens. What we're worried about is that there's potential for 160 known pathogens to be released into the air. It's being touted as being a drip type irrigation, when in reality it's actually a spray irrigation from irrigation units that are going to be 8 to 10 feet in the air. I'm on the state's spray irrigation manure work group. Drip is not what the average citizen thinks about. It is not actually a large drop of water. The way these things work with a drop nozzle is that the water flows down and then hits a splash plate, which then actually makes it into a spray.
We cannot have test results that are akin to a third world. We can't have our citizens come up and talk about MRSA.
In 2006, a task force was put together to address groundwater issues in northeastern Wisconsin. It included the land application of waste to areas where the depth to carbonate bedrock was less than 5 feet posed an extreme relative vulnerability to contamination. 5 to 15 feet represented a high relative vulnerability, and 15 to 50 a significant vulnerability. Despite having these findings on record, industrial concentrated animal feeding operations have continued to petition the DNR to grow their farms, and they keep getting approved.
I have had E. coli. One of my last tests, the E. coli wasn't present. There was several tests ago. This most recent one with the USDA showed the bovine manure testing for viruses and the salmonella.
This new well was dug to a depth of 415 feet and cased to 382 feet.
Oh my God.
We did this to get below the contamination and to try to block it from entering that vein of water. Well, as you can guess, the levels of nitrates in that new well continue to rise over the years, and at our last testing a few years back hovered close to the 10.0 mgs per liter.
Not against farming, and however they like to, I think that farming, the CAFOs like to present that, you know, as somebody who cares about clean air and water, I'm against farming. It's more, I'm just opposed to the absolute pollution. And so it's really, it's noise and it's pollution and it's heavy road traffic, and it's our tax dollars fixing roads that just continue to get broken over and over and over again.
Most of the large CAFO permits have been issued within the last 10 to 15 years. That's my understanding. And I do think that once one was permitted and people got the idea that this kind of farming methodology was very profitable and advantageous, that it spurred others in our area who were already farming to accumulate the additional herd size and in some cases the additional land necessary to have a CAFO and to qualify as a CAFO. And so it did. It kind of, you know, once you saw one farm begin to expand, other farmers decided it was essentially get bigger, get out.
But on March 17th, 2014, our Wisconsin DNR, the poultry industry, and the dairy industry all met, and they hosted an informational meeting on bringing more CAFOs to Wisconsin. So they may not be here yet, but they are coming, and Wood County is not prepared to deal with it.
Because I see the one that is adjacent to my land going with an expansion, and I'm just roughly guessing from 20-some hundred to 80-some hundred without any more land base. That's a concern to me. You know, it's just filtering it right through, and the manure is spread all around me. The tankers can be non-stop on a 6-acre field for several days.
I have a tourism-based destination business, which is in its 11th season now. First 5 years, things were kind of going on. We started to notice some major building up of some of the farms, one in particular that's very close to us and close to the business and seems to have the largest impact on what we do. And then it was about 5 years ago, it was like bam. And the road traffic, the road conditions, for ourselves, both being business owners where, you know, people are coming over to Lake Michigan to enjoy the lakeshore, but also owning a home on the lake, algae-covered beaches, stench all summer long on one side on the east, and then on the west we have the stench of the CAFOs.
This summer we farmed about 400 acres with what we've rented from several neighbors, but then some of that is our woodland too. We use only organic measures, no chemicals, pesticides, no GMO seeds. We're trying everything we can because with the problem with the water, you know, I've lived where I am on that block in the town of Lincoln my whole 66 years of my life. My family farm joins the back of our farm where my brother is, and it's just, you know, we have so much pride in our area and on our farms, and no matter how bad the water gets, I'm sure I will never leave, but it is on our mind all the time.
Kewaunee County, tourism is a huge part of our local economy, and when you get those types of odors continuously floating through the air, basically from 16 CAFOs that we have here, not just one, we have 16, it's going to have a huge detrimental effect on our tourism industry here.
I think that for all of us, that there is a steady decline in tourism because we don't have the traffic. People come through here once, if it smells the way that it smells, and the conditions are the way that they are, and they can't go to the beach, they never come back because they can go around Kewaunee County to get to Door County, and we are heavily dependent on Door County traffic. And we bounce off of them, and I have for all 11 years that I've been open.
We have seen significant reductions in the water table. Some counties have reported streams and creeks drying up, even entire lakes that have had their water levels drop very significantly. And in this case, you may have a farm that will require 20, 30, or 40 high-capacity wells, and that would go a long way towards helping reduce the water level or the water table in some counties.
Richard Castelluevo, at a Town of Lincoln meeting, repeatedly stated that nutrient management plans do not protect groundwater. Andrew Craig, Kennard hearing in Green Bay, under his sworn testimony, said nutrient management plans are designed to maximize the yield and profit for the farm. They do not protect our groundwater.
We need to do something. We can't just keep sitting here watching this happen. This is ridiculous. And Davina's study was, to me, it was groundbreaking. It was huge. So proving the fact that the depth of the wells have nothing to do with this, that it's all of what's being spread on there, even if they're following the nutrient management plans, and we assume that they are. It's still too much for the kind of ground that we've got.
Columbus Crescent Beach has had multiple closures this year due to bacteria.
You see it, you used to drive through Algoma and the beach would be packed because everybody would be coming over from Green Bay. And there's nobody on the beach anymore.
For a public beach, you should not even be walking in the water. That is amazing.
If we have rain the day before, you know that the beach is pretty much going to be closed the next day. That's for E. coli. So it's a huge impact on your quality of life.
And that used to be a trout stream. When I was a kid, I would go fishing for brook trouts, my father. The East Twin River is now a dead stream.
Some people like to say too, you know, you're scaring everybody, or, well, I guess I believe that if that's what needs to be done to fix the problem, then people should know how bad it really is.
I mean, the small farmer is struggling as hard as he can, working as hard as they can. No, they're not the ones causing this problem. They're just not.
We cannot wait one day longer. Your family's legacy, your family's name will forever be on your vote today.
A few weeks ago, my granddaughter fell, cut her knees and her hands, and in an immediate response, she ran to the bathroom and immediately tried to wash her cuts. She's only 6 years old. She should not have to worry about the water she's using to clean a cut. I immediately took clean water without scaring her, used bottled water to rinse it off. It was a very unsettling night, worrying what I might have exposed her cuts to.
It's my biggest worry, whether when I watch her brush her teeth at night or take a bath, and they can tell you that it's not, or it would take this much exposure. How do you know that for sure if you don't notice something? She cut her finger that day.
Long-term effect.
And our deck testing we did for the year showed how bad these wells are fluctuating from time to time. So you can't guarantee that when your daughter or son goes over to that faucet.
I have seen someone that's close to me has cancer. I have seen the chromosome tests where they show a picture and they tell that this chromosome, the end is deleted, and that chromosome, the end is deleted. There's no cure for this cancer. It was probably caused by handling farm chemicals when this person was a child. Agent Orange is the cause, so Vietnam vets also have this cancer. So what I'm trying to say to you is, all our practices now have ramifications decades and decades down. And just know that. And farmers back then handled atrazine, formaldehyde, and all kinds of stuff, thinking they were doing the right thing. They were told they were doing the right thing. But the result is, much later in life.
I have another one on the way, and that's
and you need to make it better.
I spent 2012 suffering and battling with MRSA, as did one of my sons. The southwest end of my farm has about 8 foot of soil to bedrock. Many areas much less than that, with a great deal of the property with exposed bedrock. I'm not worried about myself, but I am for my family, my innocent, precious grandchildren, my friends and neighbors, my community, and this county. These changes need to start here in this room. They need to start with this panel. Our help is not going to come from Madison, and it's not going to come from Washington. The citizens in this county are counting on all of you, our elected officials, to help us. We ask for a minimum of 20 feet. It's just a very small start to a very big problem. And until this happens to you, you have no idea. It's not just an inconvenience. It's so much more. It is on your mind all the time. If I am in my garden, if I am in my barn, if I am in my home, it is on my mind all the time. It's like air and water. We need them, we need to protect them, and we cannot live without them. Thank you.
My advice to Wood County would simply be to make sure that the population, the entire population, is as well informed as possible. That will take some dollars and some time, but it's well worth the effort.
Could we be Toledo'd? Yes. Green Bay could be Toledo'd because of where they draw from. And I you know, as unfortunate as that whole happening was, it's also a gift because it woke up a lot of people and hopefully, you know, decision makers also.
But you have to have your facts, because I can assure you that the agricultural industry, especially the large agricultural industry, is well funded, very adept at countering arguments if they are not totally factually based.
really don't let this happen. We just got a new board in. We worked really, really hard trying to get 3 people elected. We got one of them on, and you spoke with her, you heard Lee today, 1 out of 3. And it's imperative that the citizens have voices. Our chairman of our Land and Water Department also owns the largest CAFO in Kewaunee County, and that was an appointed position. And that is something that on top of all our other battles, we're fighting that now. So local politics matter. They matter a lot right now. So that's, you know, just don't, whatever you can stop, just stop.
The current nutrient management plans, as they have been implemented in Kewaunee County, have not stemmed the problems we've seen here with groundwater contamination and surface water contamination. We have piles of algae building up along Lake Michigan. We have impaired trout streams. We have impaired rivers, creeks, and lakes. And so whatever rules we have in place haven't been adequate to deal with it. Hence the meeting today, to establish even tighter regulation.
I don't think we're asking for something ridiculous here or out of the ballpark. And I think what we need to do is to finally come back as human beings, look into the eyes of some people that you love today, and decide there's a real urgency here, folks, to address this problem.
Well, Lynn Henning, who is from Michigan, she's the winner of the 2010 Goldman Prize winner for environmental issues. She stated that in her experience all over the United States, there is no CAFO that is operating in an environmentally appropriate way. I think she has been all over this country. I think that is probably the best advice we could all take, and I think we need to keep them away as much as possible. There are other methods of farming that are more appropriate and are better for our communities and better for our environment. So I would make, hopefully Wood County would make things as stringent as possible before they ever show up.
Their future, my children, her future, you know, I want to leave this place a better way than I found it. And I found it great. I had a great life growing up. I want her to be able to experience that, to be able to go in the creek and play like we played. You know, there's just so many things that just without this good water that aren't going to be available to her. Come to the beach on a hot day, because Algoma is always cool, and be able to go into that beach.
One thing that was disturbing today is listening to more than a couple commentary on that the solution is leaving this county. And we have watched that happen with our young people here. We have watched it with our retirees here. And there's a whole new group of people, and we're calling it the M word, which means move. And it's often uttered through tears, because people love it here. They love the community, they love the people, they love the lake shore. And you know what? We cannot live in an area that has contaminated air and water. And I hope that this committee will address the urgency that is before you today and do what is right for all citizens, young and old. Thank you.